So we are actually like this right now. If you see the picture, that everybody is worried about the show cause notices received day out. And now the first case study which is there is a recent 2 days back we have received the show cause. So we thought let's start with that and then we go back to other case studies. So this is wherein there is an advertising agency who have booked their revenue. If you look at it as 1 lakh rupees in their P&L as a credit side, as an income. But then obviously the ultimate commission to this advertising agency is just 15%, which is 15,000 rupees. And 85,000 obviously goes to the printing press and other companies which are available, which are included in this particular transaction, wherein the ultimately printing of the advertisement happens. In this case, the question remains that now department, when they have issued show cause notices, what they've done is they have directly issued show cause notice saying that, okay, there is a difference between an ITR and STR. And therefore, you please provide us the reply. And without any inquiry, basically, they have issued this show cause notice for 2 periods, that is 16-17 and 17-18, which is normally the case in current show cause notices. And this show cause is right now received on 1st of November 2021. So this is basically the facts of the case. Now we need to decide whether the demand raised by department, is it correct merely just because there is a difference between income tax and STR? So now the floor is open for discussion by the participants. And what we need to discuss is merely on the basis of income tax and STR. In genuine cases also, if the show cause notices are issued, then can we address it in a particular way so that these show cause notices can be stopped then and there? Because it will be a critical issue even when it comes to GST. Yes.
Well, I would just like to express my brief view on this front. I feel these notices maybe would have been necessary because of large-scale evasion by a lot of taxpayers, maybe inadvertent, maybe intentional. But these show cause notices are nothing short of flying in the blind.
Right.
जो हिंदी मुहावरा है ना, अंधेरे में तीर मारा है. So it's nothing short of that, and at times for compliant taxpayers, this becomes harassment, legal harassment, nothing else. While we may have precedents to fight these out, and while we have citations to put forth, but practically, how much do these officers pay heed to these precedents, and what are the disciplinary actions taken against these officers, and what is the end result of doing all these things? How many of our clients could afford to file writ petitions for cases where these tax amounts are just 50,000, 1 lakh?
Definitely.
So,
that's also
end of the day, a lot of people get succumbed to all these things. They end up providing all the details, reconciliations, evidences appear for the hearings. So, although little bit okay, they were justified, but I think these notices should have been issued only after proper due verification, not just merely on basis of ITR. The circular that has recently come back in October, I think 26th October, was little bit too late.
Even 18th November, they've issued one instruction.
Yes.
But yes, of course, it's little late, but better late than never, I would say. But at the same time, yes, I understand that there are particular issues which we will address at that time, right? And definitely, we have also put down a question whether we should file a writ petition in which cases or not. Yes. So we'll try to address it at that point. Yes, Naresh sir.
Prerna?
Yes, sir.
As far as writ petition is concerned,
yes,
my reading is this, or I have come across many of these, many of the court, giving the verdict. Right. Why you are rushing to the court at the show cause notice level? This is only just a show cause notice, so it's a premature for an applicant to move court. Rather than you explain the things to the department and get sorted out there. I think the Bombay High Court has been perhaps very, very sort of strict on this. Okay. They do not or they are inclined not to entertain such kind of a writs. That is what my understanding is. Okay. So that is first thing. And we are not on that basic issue whether 1 lakh ke upar tax lagna chahiye or 15 ke upar lagna chahiye.
No, not at all. Not at all.
That's all.
Merely on the basis of difference, can department issue show cause notice or not? That is one of the major legal issues that we have.
Yeah.
So that is where the question is. As Sumit said, right now what is happening is the show cause notices are issued even without issuance of a scrutiny letter. I would say a normal letter has to be issued first, which needs to ask for the details. And if they do not provide the details, or if the details are not satisfactory, then show cause notice, agreed, sir. But
Correct,
otherwise,
correct.
blindly issuing show cause, as Sumit rightly said,
Yeah,
that is where the question is, sir.
Yeah, in the chat box also, Paresh has said, they've provided reconciliation and everything. Thereafter also the show cause notice was issued. I think that kind of
Yes.
show cause notice is not permissible, correct?
Definitely. So I will say one practical example which had happened with one of my clients, wherein the person was a doctor. He has already died. His brother is now a CA and looking after this kind of show cause notice for him. Now they have already replied to an email which was received, asking for details relating to 1617 and 1718, and still there is a show cause notice which has been issued. And now there is a personal hearing today and tomorrow on the matter. So then it is more of a, I would say, wastage of time and efforts on such kind of show cause notices when the assessee has already replied, has already given adequate evidences that they were not liable to pay any service tax on such matters.
Nitin Gupta has raised his hand. He can unmute himself and raise his query.
Sorry.
Hello.
Yes, Nitin bhai, go ahead.
There is a direct circular issued on 31st October 2016 on the same point, which said that 15% is the only income on which service tax is payable. So if we reply with that, with reference to that particular circular, and we can say, since in view of that circular, this STN issued is invalid and improper, requires to be dropped. So there is no need of going for a writ petition on that ground to the court at all.
Nitin bhai, the question of Payal is whether the department can at the first instance issue the show cause notice or not. If you have given the reply that pursuant to this particular circular, and this is something, only 15,000 is taxable. If you have given the reconciliation, I think Nitin bhai is putting a question whether the show cause notice itself can be issued or not. Correct, Payal?
Yes, sir, definitely. So I'm right now not talking about the merits of the case. It is more on the legal point, whether show cause notice in these cases are, first of all, should be issued, because there are multiple show cause notice. If you see, there is one show cause notice for every expert right now per day minimum on these kind of issues. So that is where the question is, that these kind of show cause notices, if are issued to a normal assessee also with extended period of limitation with penalties being imposed, it becomes a question mark for department's integrity and our integrity as well.
See, legally they cannot issue the notice, but they are like bound to issue this particular notices to garner the revenues.
Okay, so I understand, sir, but merely on the basis of income tax and STR, do we see that in case there is any income which is recorded, will it by default become a taxable service, and therefore will they be able to issue a show cause notice, sir?
Technically, no.
Mr. Kishan also wants to add something. He's raised his hand.
Sure.
Yeah, good evening, sir. So there is no mandatory requirement to reconcile both the things. First point, ST3 returns and income tax return, there is no requirement to reconcile.
Right.
There is no presumption provided in the income service tax Act that when income tax return is there, that it should be considered as a income for the purpose of our provision of services or in with respect to service tax. Third, there is no burden of proof provided by the department with respect to this one. ST3 return is written in the. I mean to say, burden of proof is on department, not on SSE, to prove his innocence.
Right. Agreed. Absolutely agreed. That definitely, in case department is issuing show cause notice, and if they merely issue on the basis of income tax and STR, then definitely
my submission is not yet completed. Moreover, if at all, even if we are not submitted the information, some other powers are provided to the department, but was already settled and discussed by some other courts. When if survey and such powers will become redundant if they are not exercising those powers and simply proving everything on us.
Absolutely. In fact,
And
not only
moreover,
survey, there is also a question, as I said, there can be letter which can be issued first. There can be recovery which can be done in case there is, of course, and show cause notice is an adjudication process which has to follow.
Now the discussion put forward is only with respect to the legal points.
Yes.
So hence I am putting forward not the practical issues.
Yes, sir. Okay.
And moreover, repeal and savings also not permitted.
Can you please come again on this one, please?
174 2E.
174
Repeal and saving clauses.
Mhm.
There, I have done little great length of research with respect to repeal and saving.
Right.
There are 4 types of rights are there.
Sir, I have taken this question at the end. The last case study is
Okay.
on whether service tax and GST,
Sorry,
whether
sorry,
after GST law. So
sorry.
we'll
Right.
just put it at the end. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay, right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Right, bye.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else would like to say anything about?
Prerna,
Yes, sir.
Vishal has given on the chat box that he doesn't see any legal bar on the department for issuing the SCN in such cases. So whether there is any legal bar on those parts.
So there is no legal bar. Show cause notice can be issued provided they are able to prove that there is some service tax which is payable. Now in these cases, I'll just like to put forward 2 case laws. If anybody else doesn't have to say anything, then I'll just start with the discussion, sir.
One more small point.
Yes,
There
sir.
have been judgments in the past in the service tax era where the tribunals and courts have opined that the show cause notices have to be very specific. They cannot be vague. They cannot be made
Yes.
on presumptions, assumptions, and all these things.
Right.
You cannot presuppose anything just like that.
Prejudiced mindset.
Yes. So even
Right.
prejudiced mindset. So basically, what I'm intending, even if there was some income disclosed by me in income tax return, whether this is against any activity done by me for some other person, who is the other person? Where is the consideration that I have received it or charged it? So there are various situations under which I would have offered the income under income tax, but it may not be taxable under service tax.
Both are absolutely different laws.
Yes.
Income tax and service tax, both are absolutely different laws. In fact, just to support Sumit, there is also an activity code which is given in the income tax return, right?
Yes.
That, okay, we are filing for business, then we are saying that, okay, this type of activity we are doing.
Yes.
So, for example, if I am just another example which I had taken up just some time back on the doctor's case, therein definitely they would mention that it is a medical practice which is being done. Then it is up to department to further ask a question through a letter whether it is a taxable case or not, and then definitely the adjudication process has to follow if they gather enough evidence that yes, there is a problem and the assessee has not paid service tax which was required to be paid. But blindly issuing show cause notice with income tax and STR return and then extrapolating, which I have not put it here, but practically they are extrapolating to the 2 years, for the 2 years, saying that, okay, you might have had 25% growth, 30% growth in your revenue. And they are just putting it as a, I would say not ex parte order, but ex parte show cause notices, ad hoc show cause notices, which is quite weird, wherein you have ITRs for further 2 years also. You take up those ITRs, you look at the differences, and then you issue a show cause notice if it is valid. So those are definitely, I would say, legal basis to say that definitely income tax is very different law. It is on the income. Service tax, you have a charging section where you need all the elements, like there has to be service provider, service recipient, there has to be a service, and it has to be a taxable transaction. Then only you will be eligible to really say that it is a taxable transaction. So with this brief background, I would like to provide 2 case laws which I felt could be relevant. One is this Asha Photo Studio 2010 case law. In the same, I mean, if you remember in 2010, it was a case wherein the service tax was to be paid on a payment basis, and thereafter it got shifted on an accrual basis. So during that period as well, what department did was they directly checked, or I would say compared ITR versus the service tax returns and issued show cause notices, wherein this case law came to help, saying that books will be quite different, income tax will be quite different, service tax will be quite different, and therefore they should not issue such blind show cause notices. The matter was then remanded back by the tribunal. So the matter had to reach to tribunal to get it remanded back. That is the whole point which we are talking about. So as Sumit said that can we really go for writ petitions or not in these cases? So of course the amounts could be small. So in those cases we can go for the normal appeals. Now the next question which I had was whether they can, they have to reply to this show cause or they should opt to file a writ petition. Somebody has any specific comment on this second question? Or sir, Shailesh sir, would you like to answer the first question first and then we take up the second
No,
one?
you finish, then I'll deal with all the questions together.
Okay.
While, with your permission, may I just add a corollary?
Yes, please,
Just a
please.
wild thought for Shailesh bhai to answer. So,
Yeah.
would such kind of show cause notices that are issued in bulk would make it a fit case to file a PIL also? Being a case of harassment, I am just asking as a common layman, sir. I've got absolute no knowledge whether this could be contemplated or not. So, apart from a writ petition, whether such kind of a PIL could be filed on behalf of all the taxpayers.
I'll
So, if
answer.
you could deal with that issue as well, sir.
Nice question.
As far as whether that such kind of rate, will the court treat it as a ripe or not?
Yes, sir.
Court is not concerned with our harassment or anything. They say if the show cause notice has come, department has got some basis, income tax returns, and they've got all the right to ask for the reconciliation. They've got all the right. So why you are coming to us? You should have gone to the department. You would have explained. On the basis of they will not admit the rate on the ground that it is premature. Yeah, I think this is my only comment. This is only my comment, and you and Shailesh bhai can reply to it or respond to it.
Definitely, sir. Any other person would like to express their views on the writ petition, whether it can be filed or it should be filed?
Payal,
Yes, sir.
there is a comment by Mr. Kishan. He said, based on Karti Associates and Oryx Fisheries case, SCN is invalid.
Okay. So Oryx Fisheries, we have taken it on, this is more on the opportunity of being heard. So that will be little different, I would say. Kranti Associates, somebody has to tell me what is it exactly, and then we can comment on it.
All the principles laid down while issuing the show cause notice. What are the factors to be considered?
Okay. So how the show cause notice is the foundation to get a demand.
Yes.
So based on
what
that,
are the functions to be performed while issuing quasi-judicial function? Prior to that, all case laws given by Supreme Court compiled and given in the form of principles in Oryx Fishery and Kranti Associate cases.
Right. Okay. Fine. Yeah. So Oryx, we have taken it in a very different context at the end. So we'll talk about it also. But yes, definitely we can look at these two case laws for our understanding. My point is that in writ petition, I agree with Naresh bhai, but Naresh bhai, there is only one exception. Okay. This is on this. Okay. I'm so sorry. I forgot to mention another case also. This Amrish Shah. It's an interesting writ petition, Bombay High Court. So here, just to address Naresh sir, your concern, there was a writ petition in this case, merely on the basis of difference between ITR versus STR. This was a case of PDS legal. And then here, what happened is the show cause was issued merely on this basis. PDS legal appeared in January 2021. They got a stay also. And thereafter, in March, when the final hearing was to be done, department withdrew the show cause notice. It was on the basis of partners' remuneration. The show cause notice was to tax levy service tax on partners' remuneration. The show cause was withdrawn by the time the final hearing came up. And thereafter, this order said that, okay, with due consideration, first of all, show cause notice was still quashed. And to address, there were certain other matters also which department wanted assessee to explain relating to other income from other sources, wherein department said, wherein the court said that the department should separately issue a show cause notice on this matter, and then they should take up separately. They should not club both the show cause notices together. So that's how the reply was. So if you go to writ petition, there is a possibility that your show cause notice can be withdrawn. Okay, sir. Yeah. So this is one discovery which we had. And secondly, relating to writ petition, just wanted to highlight on the legal basis. Not in all the cases that a writ petition can be accepted, as Naresh sir also said, but there will be four exceptions to this particular scenario. That will be either a breach to the fundamental rights, or a violation of principle of natural justice, or there is a excessive jurisdiction which is done, or there is a I would say legislation's virus itself which is challenged. In these four cases, definitely we can go and we can challenge before the High Court as a writ petition. So if there is a violation of principle of natural justice in any of the cases like this, then definitely we can approach through a writ petition. But in all other cases, in my view, it will be very difficult to go for a writ petition. If there is an alternate remedy available, then definitely there is a possibility that writ petition can be rejected. So now Shailesh sir can answer these two questions and then we can move further, sir.
I think there are two more questions on this
Yes, sir.
about limitation and all.
You want me to highlight that also? Okay.
Or one after one question, shall I take it up first of all?
Okay. Okay.
I'll be
fine.
very brief because we have consumed a lot of time on this.
Yes, sir.
As I could see from the the discussion, that the discussion is actually from on one hand there is a over enthusiasm, on the other hand there is a too much of conservatism, and it is actually like a pendulum. It is actually from one end to another end. The thing is, somewhere we might have missed a lot of fundamental facts about these concepts or aspects of this type of litigation. One, the case study as such, the facts as narrated, nowhere says that the demand was raised on the basis of the difference between ITR and ST3 return. It does not say so, but we will presume, right? But otherwise, yes, the case study does not clearly say so. One, the facts do not say so. But since nowadays we are in the habit of presuming the case of the department and then start building up our defense, we will go in the same vein. Number one. The second thing is simpliciter. There is there has been a point made that there is no legal obligation on me, on the department, on me rather as a taxpayer, to provide the reconciliation between IT and ST3. I am afraid that is not correct. That is not correct. IT income tax return and service tax return and income tax return and excise returns are being reconciled, whether or not there is a legal obligation or not. As a matter of fact, every company worth its name do undertake even otherwise also without department requiring them to do so, the reconciliation between their income tax return and their statutory returns prescribed under excise or service tax. If department during audit or otherwise comes across any difference between the two, they have every right in the world to ask for the explanation. So it will be, we might be actually misguiding ourselves if we say that there is no legal obligation on me to do the legal. Everything need not be provided in law. The short payment or the non-payment of tax, which is actually, if the proper officer is of the view, and that view can be based on any material. It can be reconciliation also. Why are we doing the 9C? We are actually, 9C is our blood life, our lifeline nowadays, right? Why are we so much harping upon? Just because it is provided in law? Need not be. Tomorrow, can anyone say, why are you providing for reconciliation between my IT return and GSTR 1 and 3B return? Can somebody challenge that? So it will not be correct to say that reconciliation is not the taxpayer's obligation under the law. Now coming to, assuming this entire case is based on the reconciliation, culling out from the fact, if it is not, it need not be even based on the, if it is based on the reconciliation, but if the show cause notice clearly says that this 85,000 has escaped the tax net and you have paid the tax only on the 15,000, per se, this show cause notice will not render invalid. Because it is the service tax description, taxability, everything has been, it is a question of the taxability of the 85,000 on which tax has not been paid by the advertising agency. So there is a basis given. This basis, it may emanate from the reconciliation that your income tax return, because on the one side, on income tax, he is showing the complete revenue. On other side, he is showing it as an expenses. Now, this is good enough for the department to go ahead in the matter. Nothing wrong in that. And then thereafter, they are saying that this 85,000, it is a simpliciter, a case of valuation. It is a demand arising on account of the valuation in turn based upon the comparison between the ITR and the ST3 return. It is not the thousands of SOCOS notices which are flying across the country where nothing is given. Only the figure has been, differential figure has been adopted and that has been converted into the demand. We have to make the difference between this case study and the other cases. One. Secondly, Coming to the SOCOS notice, yes, if the SOCOS notice is based entirely on the ITR return and the ST3 return, per se it may not rendered, it will not get rendered invalid, except where the case is, it does not even specify the particular activity falls under which services and why it is taxable. And only the difference is converted and the demand is raised on that basis. Then one can say that there is a ground to argue. But if after culling out the differences, further discussion takes place, then there is absolutely nothing wrong in that SOCOS notice. Yeah, tell me, Fire.
There's just one question. There is also a stage of pre-consultation before issuing the.
I'm coming to that. Pre-consultation. I'm coming to that.
Please.
You see, we want to have the best of both the worlds. Right?
Yes, sir.
We say that we give the reconciliation, still you are issuing the SOCOS notice. At the same time, then why not, if you have done the pre-consultation, what are we doing in the pre-consultation? During the course of pre-consultation, we give all sorts of explanations to them. And if they do not accept and then still issue the SOCOS notice, what is the difference between my giving the explanation during investigation, which ultimately still results into the SOCOS notice, and my giving the explanation during pre-consultation, again resulting into SOCOS notice?
Sir, what I'm trying to say is, if there is a possibility of issuing a letter, and then, as I said about pre-consultation, then why to issue directly a SOCOS is what the question is.
No, you see, they have to. You see, pre-consultation about the board. If they do not follow the pre-consultation route by the board as per the circular dated of 2015, we create UNA and cry. And we challenge the validity of the SOCOS on the ground the pre-consultation route has not been followed. Okay?
Yes.
And if it is given, then they say that they are not listening to me. We can't.
Then
have
otherwise it is fine, no? Then the SOCOS notice at least will be valid, is what we are saying.
No, SOCOS, no, my point is very clear. First of all, one, if the reconciliation is given, it is the law officer is not obliged in law to accept that reconciliation. One. Similarly, the explanations are given during pre-consultation. He is not obliged in law to accept those applications, howsoever justifiable they may be. If they accept everything which is justifiable and avoid issuing the SOCOS notice, I don't know about all of you, but I would be looking for some job somewhere in some company. So therefore, one sec. The point is, after giving reconciliation, and what has happened during the COVID period, they have actually been relying upon all sorts of emails sent to the party or the letters sent to the party, and that they have not given the details, or that they have given the details, they have not given further explanation. These are all facts too. It will all depend upon the facts of each case. We cannot call out any principle of law on this. We have to be very clear that certain things are always have to be decided on the basis of the facts involved in each case. You can't compare two cases, even if the person fighting the case is the same. That is one mistake we should never make. The second point is, after reconciliation, which is justifiable from the taxpayer's perspective, is not accepted and issued in the SOCOS notice, per se, there is nothing illegal in that. You may challenge the SOCOS notice that my explanation have not been taken into account, because again, you are going to do the same defense. Third, coming to the pre-consultation, yes, there are any number of now High Court judgment which says that even if the pre-consultation as per board circular is not undertaken, the SOCOS notice will be rendered invalid. And in the context of GST, the latest is the back office IT solution Delhi High Court judgment. So that is fine. These are all judgments, the Tube Investment India Limited and all. As far as if somewhere were to ask me my point of view, which are well known to everybody in my various action, I never participate in pre-consultation, and I never allow my client to participate in pre-consultation. I am very clear on that. And I will never allow them to participate in pre-consultation. Because when you go into pre-consultation participation, you go with the fond hope that he will actually listen to the reason, and any absurd SOCOS notice he will not go ahead with that. Rarely a case has come across to my notice, rarely, where even the most die-hard revenue officer could not have really thought of issuing the notice that the pre-consultation notice has resulted into success. And by succeeding in one case, I will not start getting into that habit. Because you give all your defense at the pre-consultation stage, and he rejects either with or without reason, and then thereafter the actual show cause notice comes where he narrates the entire history of pre-consultation notice, which is as good as a show cause notice, your defense which he has not accepted, and then the last paragraph again will come why this amount should not be recovered from you. Now, what fresh defense you have got? You have opened up all your cards before him at the pre-consultation notice level. This is one danger which nobody has actually ever thought of. So I never get into the pre-consultation. This is my personal way of looking at the things. Coming to the show cause notice, even the ASHA auto judgment also, ASHA photo judgment also, please understand, there is High Court has and Tribunal has not actually said the show cause notice cannot be issued. Tribunal has remanded the matter to adjudicating authority to undertake the proper investigation and consideration of the facts. There is absolutely no judgment. This judgment does not say that show cause notice cannot be issued merely on the basis of ITR and the ST3 return. We should be very clear on this. The validity to the show cause notice merely based on the ITR and ST3 return or ITR and ER1 return can lie only on one ground, that it does not even specify how the issue of taxability has arisen. Why my activity is taxable? It fulfills 65B44 service definition. It falls under this particular taxable category or whatever, and why it is taxable. If that is not done, and it appears that you are engaged in the providing services, and so balance whatever difference is there is attributable to the income arising from the services, that will not do. You can challenge that on that ground, but not otherwise. Another point is that whether, so legally there is no bar. I agree with a member who has posted that, Vishal, I think, that there is no legal bar for issue of the show cause notice, even on the basis of after reconciliation or on the basis of ITR and ST3 return. Coming to all this blind move, harassment, action against, okay, fine. These are all, we can go on discussing and discussing and discussing for years and years and years and decades and decades and decades. This is how the system works. It will not get into anything. As far as the PIL writ petition is concerned, Bombay High Court, that judgment has been touted and this has been actually, flagged everywhere. This judgment, I will not take it further beyond beyond a limit. I will not take it. I will not like to even rely upon that judgment. And please understand, the High Court has actually given the liberty to the department to verify the facts. High Court has not stopped them issuing the show cause notice per se on the basis of ITRN. They say, okay, fine, you verify the facts and in accordance with law, whatever you want to do there. So I will agree with Naresh Bhai. In such type of cases, actually, it will not be, I will be the last person to go to the High Court, right? I have a, yes, I have inborn allergy for the High Court. That's my different view. At the same time, there are a number of petitions which we have been filing nowadays because, so we have to explore all the options before going to the High Court. Because when you go to the High Court, my belief is very strong that I am on the point of no return. That is my High Court when I go to the High Court. So at the drop of the head, that mentality to go to the High Court should be covered. Really. Coming to whether there can lie a PIL, yes, PIL can also, yes, it can also, if PIL stands for public interest litigation or PIL stands for the professional interest litigation. In these type of cases, PIL may turn out to be the professional interest litigation in a lighter vein. There is no question of any PIL. There is no question of even an association taking up his members' show cause notices per se and approaching the High Court. No locus standi for the association in such type of cases. Now take another instance. You said about your doctor, a relative or somebody. Take a case of a doctor or hospital. Take a case of a contractor. A contractor who has undertaken works contract has been issued a show cause notice on the basis of the ITR return and ST3 return. He has undertaken different types of contracts during this entire period. And he has not obtained the registration, or he might have obtained the registration, but his ST3 return and ITR shows certain differences, whatever may be the difference because of TDS or whatever reason. Is it not the department right to say, call for the explanation? How I would approach this type of matter, if the show cause notice does not give me the basis of arriving at the taxability and the tax liability. Mind my words, taxability and tax liability, I will take it as my first preliminary objection, because I am not required to assume the case of the department. Thereafter, depending upon the progress of the case, I may get into the merits of the case, what are my contracts which I have executed and how it is not liable. If I get into this, and if department confirms that thereafter, I also can argue that the SOCOS notice per se did not get into this because they have never done this analysis. And therefore, my SOCOS notice, my order is beyond the scope of the SOCOS notice, because they cannot take the advantage of my reply where I have actually given why it is not liable and then pass the order. This is the finer point of the law I am making.
Well noted.
Yes. So, and therefore, step by step, we have to be very careful. And the other aspect is, in this particular case, yes, 15% is liable. And if the SOCOS notice is with the giving the details and the basis, it is better to argue on the merit rather than to get into anything. Now, while you can take over with the other two cases immediately and
Yes.
finish this in another 5-10 minutes. So now, because we are already at 6 o'clock.
Yes, sir. So now, sir, the third question is, can department invoke extended period of limitation in these kind of cases? So definitely in those cases, my answer would be that, okay, your extended period of limitation cannot be invoked. The group participants can just, yeah, somebody has raised their hand. Dhirendra Gandhi. Yes, sir. Mr. Dhirendra Gandhi. Okay, let it be. I think by mistake.
While if department presumes if there is a difference in the IT return and the service tax return, the natural presumption is that there is a suppression, there is a concealment, and he only supposes. So he will be entitled to issue the extended period of limitation. The reason is this, he has a clear, he has some basis to allege that suppression. If my income tax return shows 100 rupees and if my service tax return shows 40 rupees or 30 rupees, he perhaps assumes. So, I think with this kind of, if you're given an explanation before issue of if in the course of inquiry, if you're given the explanation, that this is a valid basis, then perhaps he may not be able to issue the, extended period of limitation. But if you're not given the explanation at all, if the party has not given the explanation at all, if they have not given any, information to the department, then why can't department issue the extended period of limitation, invoke the extended period of limitation? I am failing to understand that. This is my view.
Okay. Sir, suppression itself means, just to counter argue. Yes.
Well, before you go ahead, there is a point raised by Vishal, whether to Shailesh basically, whether he can throw light whether department is bound to first dispel the objection to the SCN raised, or if any, and only then proceed for the objection or adjudication. So when there is a submission being provided, explanation being provided, and there is an objection which is raised, whether after that objection, first of all, whether the department first raised has to dispel the objection, as we have under income tax under section 148 and 148. So similarly, whether the objection has to be dispelled or whether they can go directly for the adjudication.
Now let me clarify. First of all, unless in the rarest of the rarest cases, we should really stop comparing and relying upon the income tax provisions to interpret the service tax provisions and excise provisions. Number one, these are not the objections as are normally understood under the statutory provisions of the Income Tax Act. There is a SOCOS notice which is based, let us say, on the difference between the ITR and the ST3 return. Now, they are only picking up the differential figure, treating it, assuming it to be the taxable service contribution consideration, and demanding the service tax. This is the most of the notices are of this kind. Okay. Now the question which the point I was making was that at this stage, to challenge the validity of this so-called notice, I have two options available as a taxpayer, as a recipient of the notice. One, I take the preliminary objection that this notice is presumptive in nature. It is vague and non-specific. 213 ELT 487 Supreme Court Vrindavan Beverages, right? And I say that in spite of, it does not even say which services I have provided, no return. If I have a different source of income from, as per my balance sheet, each source of income may not be taxable, right? Or it may not comprise of the service also. And if they have picked up that as a difference and converted it into so-called notice demand, I can take that and ask the department to provide me the basis of that. They will never provide this. If they provide that basis, suppose after analysis, I can have another very solid argument. It will be the date on which the basis was provided that will decide the limitation period. This is another very, very finer point. A corrigendum or addendum provided issued to the so-called notice, which substantially alters the very basis of the case, becomes the relevant date for the purpose of computing the limitation. Right? They will not provide. Now I have two alternatives. If I am bold and beautiful and adventurous, I can actually stop my reply there and then, and I say that, okay, since I don't even know on what basis this taxability and tax liability has been worked out by the department, I am not in a position to give any effective relief. So whereas so-cause notice itself is one of the fundamental principles of law, this type of so-cause notice itself can be said to be in the breach of the principles of natural justice, right? And I can stop myself at that. Let him pass in whatever order, and then I go to the commissioner appeal saying that okay, what I could have replied because I don't even know the case of the department. And there the another principle of law comes into play that one, taxpayer noticee is not required to assume the case of the department, one, and nobody can be asked to prove to the contrary. I cannot be asked to prove the contrary. I can only prove I am silence said. I cannot prove that I am not silence said. So now this is one course of action available to me. Another is without prejudice to my fundamental objection, I may get into the analysis of my activities, give the breakup and explanation that how it is not taxable. Based on that, if he confirms the demand, I can say that, okay, I have given my reply, given the explanation, but it was never, it cannot actually absolve the officer to issue the so-called notice after proper investigation and analysis. He has never actually built up his case on this basis, and therefore his entire order is beyond the scope of the so-called notice. These are all extremely finer principles of law. And this is where we have to. Coming to the limitation, I will only, by and large, I will agree with Naresh Bhai, but to one correction I would like to make, that even if I have replied to the officers during the course his inquiry and investigation, that will not mean that the officer, the extended period cannot be invoked by him in the so-called notice.
Okay.
Suppose in 2017, the inquiry is made by him, or 2019, let us say COVID period. This all started in COVID period because they were all sitting at the home and there are lot many opportunities to do all these things. So during COVID, suppose they have made the inquiry for 2014-15 onwards, and I have given the reply to all this explanation. Still, if he is not satisfied or he is not willing to accept, he can always raise the demand from 2014-15 onwards. So my replying or not replying will not make the difference. That's a different matter. It has nothing to do with the limitation period. Now limitation period can be invoked simply on the basis of income tax return vis-a-vis ST3 return or not. Again, these are a challenge to limitation period can be because the law punishes willful suppression, section 73. Willful suppression or misstatement or misdeclaration of fraud or collusion. Earlier section 73 or section 11A. Correct? Now willful Puspam Dyeing Chemical, Kemfa Drugs Limited, Padmini Products, right? Cosmic Dye Chemical, Puspam Pharmaceutical, Continental Foundation Junior. I mean, all series of judgment of Supreme Court, all the principles laid down on these various ingredients of the extended period of limitation hold good even under the GST. That is beside the point. If I am saying that these activities are not taxable and I am giving the detailed explanation, then I can also buttress my argument by saying that that there was a bona fide belief on my part that this is not taxable. One, in a given case, when a person is registered person, he might have actually given this information via to the audit or otherwise also. This will again facts to it. Limitation is a mixed question of facts and law. We should all
I would
hammer it
just
in
like
our
to
mind.
highlight 2 points. One,
Yeah.
that burden to prove in this case has to be with department,
Yes.
which I have also
Right,
put on
exactly.
Universe Textile. And secondly, see if there is enough doubt, as you said, that okay, in case I have shown it in income tax, that itself proves that I never had intention to evade taxes. Otherwise, I would have not shown in income tax also. The records were given. So there is no willful intention to reduce or
No,
suppress.
while I will correct you there. First of all, I might have given under the income. There are reasons, there are also judgments also, if everything is declared into the annual accounts filed with the ITR, right? It means everything. Now, this is slightly a dicey law because corporate companies' annual accounts are known to everybody. A
Right.
private limited company's accounts are never published. But though it has been applied even in case of a private limited company. So I normally would like to rely upon this proposition only for saying that I had no intention to evade because all the transactions have been faithfully, completely captured by me in my
Yes.
annual accounts.
And
will
even
stop there.
audited by chartered accountant,
Right.
maybe in some other,
No, audited by chartered accountant
No.
will not be a good defense because it is not audited by the department is a good defense. Not by the chartered accountant.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But when department comes, I have also put down one case law, sir, Simplex Infrastructure, Calcutta.
Yeah,
High
I
Court.
know that. I'm aware of this case.
Sir,
but it
this
is-
wherein very clearly.
But this is audit by
every
the
line
department.
they write,
File audit by the department.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
So
Audit
you
by
are talking
department.
about audit by chartered accountant. No, it is not.
So
the case.
audit by department also and audit by chartered accountant also. But I am saying that here in Simplex Infrastructure, if we remember in every show cause notice, they write that it came to notice when they came for audit, right? Departmental audit. So that could not be again a sole basis to say that, okay, there was a suppression.
So therefore, what the point we have to keep it in mind is limitation is always a mixed question of facts and law. And which principle of law laid down by which judgment will apply.
Right.
Right? In
Yes.
one case, I need not even go into the very taxability aspect on merit, and I can directly go that everything was declared to the department.
Correct.
In another case, taxability I am accepting, suppose, but I say that I was under bona
Questioning
fide belief.
the.
I was under bona fide belief.
Yes.
And now there is the line of distinction between bona fide belief and blind belief can be very thin at times. Your bona fide belief cannot be blind belief. In another case, the difference can be on account of the statutory interpretation. Every case, we can't simply go on reproducing the para and judgment that there is a statutory interpretation.
Agreed. So suppose, so sir, in case there is a person, for example, in this particular case wherein it was already, there is a difference in method of accounting, then definitely one can prove the bona fide case. But in few cases, I would just like to give a suggestion that what we can do is we can write a letter to department stating that this is what we have, So then at least later on you have something to prove that there was a bona fide belief and that is why we did not pay tax on it. I understand that you will not receive any reply.
Yeah, it will not vary from fact to fact. And as I said, for the same client also, the facts and the defense can vary from case to case.
Correct.
So another important thing to be kept in mind is while entering into the litigation, handling any litigation, to be suspicious of the copy paste culture. Right? When you are filing the
Definitely, every
replies,
case has to be factually
right?
seen.
Exactly. So therefore, there can't be a copy paste culture in the drafting of the defense reply.
Yes.
Certain judgments we have kept it in our diary, and we go on actually citing those judgments in our defense reply, which we are coming across every now and then, could be very dangerous.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes,
And
sir.
yeah.
Now the next question, should I move further?
No, that is yeah, okay. Finish it in 2 minutes. Huh?
Okay, yes, sir. Now the question is on the calculation, whether it is inclusive of tax. I mean, whether in these cases, can we say that it will be inclusive of tax or not? So if somebody would like to highlight in 2 minutes. Paresh Shah, he is saying that since tax is not collected, inclusive calculation should be permitted. Okay, anybody else would like to highlight anything? Okay, so
I'll just conclude this. But,
yes, sir. So my view would be, of course, there is a little bit difficulty in the way the section is drafted. We have this Maruti Udyog Supreme Court wherein they have already said that if you have separately collected, then cum duty will be, benefit will be available. The question is, if I say that it is never collected, like we have never put it in any of the invoices that it was inclusive of all the taxes, or it was inclusive of service tax, then whether the benefit of cum duty will be available or not. In those cases, I have also put down one of the case, which was of tribunal, Bangalore tribunal, wherein they have said that yes, in those cases also, it will be sufficient enough to get the, even if you have not collected separately, still you will be able to get the benefit of it. But I find that the language of the section is little difficult to take this approach, sir. Yes, sir. Now over to you.
Cum duty price principle has been still under the, the conflict, and there are
Exactly.
conflicting decisions on that.
Yes. Yes,
Right.
sir.
Now, there could be a case where it has not been collected. There can be a case where the exemption has been claimed. There can be a case where the contract says inclusive of all taxes.
Yes.
Now, in all such different situations, the application of cum duty principle cannot be on the same footing. In this particular given case, and I will stop there, and that is because department is now demanding the tax on the balance 85,000, and admittedly, only agency commission of 15% is liable to tax, and therefore the party can very well take the stand that it has not collected this tax. So even if you now demand it from me, then it will be a cum tax price. So Maruti Udyog can be applied in this particular case because admittedly he has not collected anything beyond 15%. Okay. Next.
Yes, sir. Now the next question is on, next case study is on exactly ITR versus STR difference, which we were discussing, wherein we have said that department has issued a show cause notice through an email, which was issued on 31st of December 2020.
We go straight to the next question.
Yes, sir. Can the show cause notice be issued through an email, sir? Because in most of the cases, recently when I was talking internally, we have received a show cause notice over WhatsApp also. And thereafter we received.
But because we live in the WhatsApp world only, na? Our world does not go beyond WhatsApp. We only live in the WhatsApp world. We live, we eat, we drink, we discuss, we learn the law, we make others learn the law only on WhatsApp. WhatsApp University is our all domain.
Yes, sir. So
what is wrong in the department issuing on the WhatsApp?
And first we received it over WhatsApp. Thereafter, at least we received an email. But my point is that in service tax era, whether show cause notice can be issued through email, considering service tax provisions, GST law definitely will have a different section, different delivery method. But service tax law, whether it will be possible to give email delivery of the show cause.
Shailesh bhai, we'll request you to give both the perspective, GST ma pan and service tax ma pan. There's a lot of confusion over here.
Any show cause notice, issued, yes. Yeah, Naresh bhai. Any show cause notice issued via email or on the WhatsApp.
Or on the portal of the
portal. I'm coming to that.
Portal, I did not take it because it was a service tax error.
I will only say that show cause notice in case of excise and service tax, and even ongoing, obviously customs also. Custom will never make this type of difference. The blunder. But excise and service tax legally not permissible to issue the show cause notice via email. Now what happens? Suppose I have received the email via email. I have received. Naresh bhai, I will just again repeat.
Yeah.
So excise and service tax notices are not permitted to be issued via email or WhatsApp. It is not a valid service of mode. It is not prescribed service of mode. Therefore, if
so we have any rule for that, or we have
a section.
You can go through the section 83, section 37C also.
37C. Yeah, 37C.
I would just like to highlight one more thing here. Of course, I have taken it in the later part of the case studies also. Registered post with acknowledgement due. We have to be very careful about it.
So this is 37C of Central Excise Act made applicable to service tax via section 83.
Absolutely.
And just for the proper understanding, please compare section 37C with the CGST provision mode of service, and you will see the difference. Okay. So the world has moved on and the department has also moved on. So, but we are right now in the pre-GST era, valid service. Now what happens? Suppose I have received by email or WhatsApp. I will not bother to reply, give the reply in detail. I will simply say that this so-called notice received by email is not valid, permissible in law. There is no valid service of so-called notice on me. Therefore, kindly serve me the proper so-called notice as provided in law. Beyond that, I am not required to say anything. I need not then go into without prejudice and other arguments on no, nothing. I will only stop there. Because considering at the fag end of the limitation period, that is 5-year limitation period, they have resorted to this practice. When you reply, and you can take your own time to reply also on the 30th day or 29th day. Need not on the immediately receive the email, and the way we type our response on the WhatsApp, you need not adopt the same practice. You know, we need not be trigger happy and finger happy. You know, you can take your own time of 30 days and send them that this is not a valid service of notice. This is not permissible in law, and therefore kindly serve me the proper so-called notice as provided in law. That will be the date of service of the notice, and it may happen that the entire demand goes beyond 5 years. Okay, next.
By GST, they can do it, correct?
Yeah, they can do it. GST, they can do it. Yeah, we are in the GST is a digital tax, no, sir?
But GST, I would just like to highlight one thing. At different sections, there is a different language being given. At some places in GST, they have given portal. At some places, they have talked about electronic mode. So we have to really differentiate between the two, and then we have to make our cases.
But major
GST.
so-called notice under 73 and 74 can be through email.
Yes. There, I think they can do it.
Yeah, 73 and 74.
Yes, sir.
Not your favorite DRC01. That will be on the electronic portal, right? DRC
Yes.
is very dear to everybody's heart. I know that.
Yes, sir.
Next.
This Madras High Court is a very good decision, wherein if you, as Shailesh sir also said, what we need to look at is from the date of service of notice, that is when you have received, that is the time from there you have to consider your period of limitation.
Just go to previous slide, file.
Yes, sir.
No, previous slide.
Okay, this section you're talking about, or
No, next.
okay, here this one.
Yeah, this is on order, no problem. Okay.
Yeah, this is on order. All of the cases which I have put is on order, not on the show cause.
But ratio applies.
But yes, we have our own case of tribunal. We'll talk about it at the end.
Next.
Yeah, sorry. So just wanted to highlight that few of the clients have also received show cause notice through email, and department may argue that okay, you were not present at your address, etc., because you have shifted long back. So service tax era, the address was different, current address was different. So there also the Delhi High Court says that they cannot then say that assessee wanted to escape. At least that much they should not say.
Here I will only advise one caution.
Yes, sir.
If there is a change in the address, the responsibility to communicate the change in address is on the taxpayer.
Yes.
So department issuing the SOCOS notice and sending it by speed post or registered post with acknowledgement to the address on records, right, does not mean that department is wrong if the party has moved from there.
So then probably department may contest saying that email delivery is sufficient enough in those cases.
No, that also will not
and
be.
And in those cases, the court has to take a call that
whether they later on go into the email or not, once the duly acknowledged receipt comes, they may not even bother. Why should they?
Correct,
because I am coming across lot many cases where the shifting of address was never communicated to the department.
In most of the cases, it's not done because service tax is already gone and GST has come.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Correct. But that is an extremely dangerous thing to do. So long as you are a registered person, it is our responsibility. You need not write to every single department. You need not write to the commissioner or anybody. It is our duty to write it to the range, our jurisdictional range authorities. That's all.
Yes, true. This is already
we have already
deliberated by
covered
you.
this.
So yeah,
We have already
Vrindavan
covered this.
beverages you have already covered. So
Right.
yes, sir. Can department pass an order confirming service tax on RCM? This was a case wherein on outward ultimately the show cause was issued and the order was confirmed for RCM demand because outward ultimately they understood that the difference was genuine. So in that case also we all are aware that in case there is a order, it has to continue with what is there in the show cause notice. They cannot issue any order which is going beyond the grounds which are given in show cause notice. Therefore, one has to be very careful while dealing with department.
Toyo Engineering, GlaxoSmithKline, Hindustan Polymers, series of
Hindustan
judgments of
Polymers,
Supreme
yes.
Court, right? The department cannot make out a new case at the appellate stage, and an
Yes.
order cannot go beyond the issue of the
Show
Supreme.
cause
Here is that they are
notice.
fundamentally altering the very, the character of the case.
Yes, sir.
By demanding the tax on the outward supply and then confirming the demand on the RCM. Fine. Next.
Without providing the opportunity of being heard, can department pass the order? Because here they have passed an ex parte order, as I said. So even after giving explanation, they have not considered it. I think this is a case wherein there is an opportunity of being heard, which principle we were discussing. The Supreme Court also in Oryx Fisheries has clearly said that there has to be an opportunity of being heard, which has to be provided, whether it is given expressly under the law or not. The principle has to remain. In case that is not given, then one can challenge whether it is High Court also or whether
this
it is
very, if I were to quote Sherlock Holmes and Arthur Conan Doyle, it is elementary, my dear Watson. But let me highlight certain important aspects, major practical aspects here. Every show cause notice you will find, second last paragraph says, if no cause is shown against this notice, or if you do not appear for hearing as and when fixed, within 30 days, no show cause is shown within 30 days, or if you do not appear for, then the case will be decided ex parte on the basis of the evidence on records. This is what they normally, every standard. And the third is, this show cause notice issued without last paragraph, without prejudice to, any other action that might be taken in any other law for the time being. And that paragraph will remain even when they are rejecting the refund also. Okay, no, it might be without prejudice to any other action taken under any other law for the rejection of the refund. Fine. This is how the system works. First of all, 30 days time limit is not a statutorily prescribed time limit for defense reply. Number one. This is administrative. Whether the demand is of 5,000, 50 lakh, 5 crore, 50 crore, 500 crore, or 5,000 crore, the notice will give you 30 days. Now, therefore, one need not really be under too much of a pressure to give the reply within 30 days, a full-fledged reply. Ideally, before expiry of the 30 days, some communication should go. If there are many cases where it may require a lot of studies, like in our excise, lot of clandestine removal cases or suppression of production cases, which requires a lot of studies and facts and figures. It may not be possible to file the reply within 30 days. Then before expiry of the 30 days, one can always send a letter saying that acknowledge the receipt of the show cause notice on a particular date. Then say that, okay, we are studying the matter, and considering the nature of the case, you can say that, okay, considering the issues involved and the gravity of the matter and the use tax involved, we are also seeking legal advice in the matter for drafting of the reply, which will be filed in the due course of time. And however, we deny all the allegations leveled against us. And finally, we may kindly be granted a personal hearing before any decision is taken, which in any case, it will be granted. And then you can take up. The tendency to immediately start asking for, here comes the notice and I ask for the 1 month extension immediately, because we are responding, we are quite enthusiastic. That should always be curbed. He will not be in a tearing hurry to adjudicate your matter. So even, and we advocates are devils. So we never ask immediately the extension. When we are up to our neck for any reason, then we start talking about 15 days more or 1 month more. You are very compliant people. So you will immediately ask for the 1 month extension in the first instance. And then we are inviting the burden on us and spoiling the record. So one, we should not get bogged down by 30 days time limit, but some response should go. One, immediately don't ask for the particular period extension immediately. Say that we will file. Due course of time can be overdue also. Don't you worry about that. Then third, and that is important, here principle of law comes, Reply is not a substitute for the hearing, and hearing is not a substitute for the reply. So even if for any reason reply could not be filed and he has fixed the hearing, the noticee is at full liberty to file the reply or written submissions at the time of hearing. There is no law that my reply must be there before the hearing takes place. There is no law. Indirect text, this is the beauty. One, you can file your reply in the form of written submissions. You may call it written submissions. At the time of hearing also, number one, not only that, you can file as many submissions as you want, even after the hearing has taken place. He might have written in the personal hearing memorandum that nothing more to add. It does not mean you cannot add. In some cases, you might have taken 7 days time or 15 days time for filing the additional written submissions. In another case, you have concluded the hearing, but some subsequent development makes you, aware that you need to file additional submissions, some legal development, some judicial development. You can always file the additional written submissions till the time you receive the order. There was an old 1962 board circular adjudication manual where board has gone to the extent of saying that in that manual, that even if the order is passed on the file, but not communicated to the SSC, and SSC asks for the further hearing, he should be given. Okay, we will not go to that extent, but at least your right to file as many submissions is always there. One. Secondly, even when the written submissions are being filed, suppose reply is already filed. Most of the time we have come across that people take the filing of written submissions at the time of hearing when the full-fledged reply is on record as an obligation. It is not so. It is not so. You may do that or you may not do that. But that written submissions cannot be again reproduction of your full-fledged reply. At best, it should be the gist of the reply. But that gist should be not like that, which completely dilutes your original reply. Because sometimes when the adjudicating authority or appellate authority, when records whatever arguments are made, obviously they are not going to actually put everything word to word. If at all you are lucky that he is recording the submissions. Otherwise, so-and-so Payal appeared, right? He reiterated the submissions. She has nothing more to add. Thank you very much. But when he records the submission gist, then 9 out of 10 cases, you will find that it is the gist which is deciding the matter. Fortunately, now with the cut and paste culture, we are all required to give the word copy of our reply. With the verbatim actually reproduces. And that is the beauty. I mean, that, there is a lot of consolation because all our submissions come on records. So three things you have to remember just to summarize. One, you are not under legal obligation to file your reply compulsorily within 30 days. Some acknowledgement, some communication should go as a practice and protocol. Two, hearing is not a substitute for reply and reply is not a substitute for the hearing. Two, and third is about the additional written submissions which can be filed at any time post conclusion of the hearing also. Coming to the adjournments, 3 hearings which are normally given as per law. It means he can only conclude the hearing on the 4th hearing. And he is supposed to even communicate, no more adjournment can be given. If in a one single show cause notice, hearing intimation, if he has given you 3 alternative dates, it will still amount to only 1 hearing and not 3 hearings. And this type of pressure will now come. You will start receiving the hearing notice with please come on 10th, 17th, 24th. It does not mean that he has given you 3 hearings. Then why not please come between 1 to 31st at any time in December? It does not mean he is giving you 31 hearings. And there are tribunal decisions on this, that giving more than one multiple hearing by one single show cause notice does not mean that there is a, 3 hearings have been given and all. And again, this is a flexible law. So these are certain major important and a ex parte order, natural justice, Sahara India from Supreme Court, that even any action which results into the prejudice, which is prejudicial to the interest of a person, principles of natural justice are required to be followed.
Yes.
And here we have a well laid down law, Supreme Court. I mean, show cause notice is a must and hearing is a must. Next.
So basically, my point of putting was that at least opportunity of being heard is a must
Yes.
before passing the order. So show cause notice, assuming that show cause notice is issued and now you are at a stage of adjudication, we cannot now do anything about show cause notice. At least the principle of natural justice has to be followed, and if it is not followed, then we have both the routes available. First, better to litigate the matter on merits and then technicals, obviously. And in case you feel that the matter is severe and you have to go to High Court, then now here in these cases, because there is a violation of principle of natural justice, there can be few of the factual cases which can also go to writ petition in High Court.
Right. And wherever there is a ex parte order, in the appeal, the first ground should always be on the natural justice and then on merits.
Yes.
Because natural justice here is not a technical ground. It is a
Yeah.
substantial ground.
It's a substantial ground.
Right?
In those
So
cases.
therefore, Kolkata High Court 1986-23 ELT, Rungta and Sons Private Limited, an order which is in violation of the principles of natural justice is ex facie bad and void.
Void and
So once it is a void order, I need not even go on the merits of the case. Carry on.
yes, sir. Now the third case study we have put down, which is on mainly on the freight forwarders. There is first of all obviously a question on merits, saying that whether on selling the cargo space, the service tax will be levied on the profit margin which is earned. So if suppose an assessee is booking a cargo space in a ship and ultimately it is selling in India to another person assessee who wants to transport the goods to outside India. In those cases, first of all, the question is whether there will be any service tax which will be required to be paid on the profit margin on for selling such spaces. Secondly, the question is on that the director has already admitted the tax liability in this case. So the second question is on the cross-examination of the director. And the third question is on the personal penalty which is levied on the director for his negligence and non-payment of service tax. So we will take one by one. First question is on the profit margin. If somebody wants to share their views.
Payal will not go on the
Yes.
merits of the case, like, your
Okay, fine,
advertising
fine.
as a margin, let us
Okay.
keep that. We are
Fine,
only on
fine.
the legality of the show cause
So
notice.
I'm
and
not
that,
taking this. People can go through this. Okay, fine.
Surya
Let's talk
Shipping
about the
actually,
cross-examination directly then.
Surya Shipping is actually summarizes and follows all the judgments on this case. It is the
Yes,
latest
sir.
judgment, and therefore that actually clears the issue.
Yes, sir.
Right.
So we'll not discuss much on that. Let us directly talk about the cross-examination in that case, sir. So yes, floor is open. So now director in this case has accepted the liability in the statement, and now whether the company wants to rebut. So,
accepted liability on the gross amount or on the margin?
the margin, sir.
Margin, sir. So, the
Yes,
company
yes.
want to even challenge that ke margin ke upar bhi tax nahi lagega, correct? Because
Yes,
they say
yes,
it's
of
totally,
course.
it's a contract for ocean freight, correct?
Yes,
No.
yes, sir.
It's not a contract for
It's
ocean
a
freight.
cargo space selling contract.
That's right. That's right. But there are many cases where the shipping, these people are arguing that I am also taking the export freight contract and I am buying the export freight contract. So even that entire gross amount is not taxable. Some people are taking the argument only margin is taxable.
Yeah,
So,
so
No, Naresh
right
bhai,
now,
in this particular case,
Yeah.
This is a selling of the cargo space. With the shipping line, the company is actually booking the cargo space in a lot, in a wholesale, as we can say. Then they are selling it to their exporters. And the question here is whether on the entire amount or on margin, whether there is a taxability or not. The director appears to have accepted the liability based on
Yes.
which the demand is raised. Now, apart
Yes.
from the merits of the case, now we are saying whether under these circumstances, whether director can be subjected to cross-examination.
yes, sir. So main point right now which we are discussing is whether the cross-examination of the director can be done in these cases, because based on the statement recorded, this entire demand is appearing to be raised.
You want me to clarify directly?
No, others, if somebody
No,
wants
others,
to
I mean,
add,
people,
I'll just
let the
give.
people.
Yeah, I
suddenly-
want people to answer it.
Yeah, exactly. Let them answer.
Yes, sir. Okay.
While I would put it this way: director is an authorized person for the company himself. He gives the answer. So how because company is a corporate entity, it's not a living entity. So somebody has to reply on his behalf. And a person who has replied on his behalf, how it can be cross-questioned? This is my simple question.
No, but then
Okay.
what is your answer?
My answer is this, sir. My answer is this: if the director has been properly has been authorized by the company, and if he has gone as an authorized representative, and if he has given the reply, in my view, perhaps the cross-examination can be of the external witness, sir. Some other party, here to you yourself have given this. You can argue that it is done under coercion, or you can rebut it. But asking the cross-examination, you cannot examine yourself.
Okay, fine. Then
So what is the role of a director in the company?
He is the authorized representative in this case. If he has gone to attend the summons on behalf of the company, somebody has to attend the summons on behalf of the company, somebody has to attend the proceedings. He has gone as an authorized representative, then he himself is an assessee as far as these proceedings are concerned.
Okay.
Unless and until he has gone without authority.
which he would not. Let us not.
Which, generally it will not be a case because
Yeah,
here
yeah,
it was
because
search
the
seizure, so-
investigating officer will
yeah,
not
it
allow
was
that.
investigation. So
Yeah.
here it is search and seizure. So it will.
Okay, any other view? No. While you summarize, then we go ahead because we have 25 minutes. Only.
Yes, sir. My case would be that definitely I understand that the director might have given, but in my view, director is not engaged in routine matters. So in case, I understand that this is somewhere which is a principal call. So it will be little difficult, I would say, to rebut the assumption that the statement is already recorded. But it is not absolutely impossible. You can still cross-examine and you can say that in case there were certain facts which can come on the record stating that director was not aware about the actual position of the company and actual transactions of the company, just because he has admitted the liability, he does not become liable to pay service tax, and therefore he should be cross-examined in my view, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. One, cross-examination, one of the important and most vital tool of the litigation defense. So far, since we are not still come out of the DRC 01 and all these aspects of GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B and 2A versus 3B, over a period of time, the importance of cross-examination will become clear to everybody. One. Secondly, cross-examination is neither a birthright nor a vested right. It is a part of principles of natural justice. When a statement of a third person is being relied upon in framing the charges against the company, that is the taxpayer, he has a right to ask for the cross-examination in a given case. But it will all depend upon the facts of each case, every case, number one. Secondly, merely because the director who has appeared before the investigating officers or the department during investigation in his authorized capacity as a director capacity, it does not mean he cannot be cross-examined. Because the company and the directors are independent of each other. The demand is against the company, but he may be represented by the director. And that is what is happening. Corporate laws, all companies are artificial legal entities. But as an artificial legal entity, when the demand is raised against the company, then it is based on some statements or confession made by the director. Because they are being regarded as independent of each other legally for all purposes. Therefore, in a given case, director can be cross-examined. Now, two things can happen. These are all settled law. So I need not get into too much of judgments and all this. The point here is, this is a case of interpretation. Now here, yes, you have put it as an academic question. I would take a call in this particular case, where the liability is only of the taxability of the amount received for the selling of the cargo space. It is a point of law. It is purely a point of law and now well settled by a catena of judgments Therefore, I will not get anything by cross-examining the director. One.
The
Secondly,
only question, yes, sir.
no, confession made by the director or acceptance made by the director will not outweigh the judgments and the ratio of the principal laid down. Right? Therefore, the question here is that this is normally we go for the cross-examination where there are facts and figures are involved. We normally go into that. In this case, even if suppose
If it is a
director has
principal
been-
case, we definitely don't go for it.
Yeah.
That
It
is what I
it
said
may-
in the
Right. It may happen that in this particular case, director might have been coerced. He might have been threatened to make the confession. Then also his confession is not going to hit me anyway. Right? It doesn't make any difference. Yes, we may say that I have two alternatives, not only for director, even third party statements also. Either I can call for the cross-examination, or I can even file the affidavit of stating the correct facts which might be at variance with whatever he has stated or confessed, and then offer him for cross-examination to the adjudicating authority. Now, these are all finer points of law. We will not go too deep into this. But yes, director in this case, director can be merely because he is director, he cannot be summoned for the cross-examination. That may not be correct. Right? Whether to call him for the cross-examination or not in a given case will depend upon the facts and the issues involved. Next.
The next question is whether the personal penalty on the director in the show cause
Yes.
notice is correct or not.
Absolutely no. In a 73A, that is 73(1)A.
Yes,
where maximum 1 lakh
73(1)A.
penalty. Don't get into, suppose he imposes only 5,000 penalty, please go in appeal. Individual penalty,
It has to
should
be a
never
separate
be.
show cause.
Yes, and because merely because there are any number of judgments, a person acting in the capacity of managing director or executive director, or for that matter, in charge of the indirect tax affairs of the company in whatever capacity, as an officer, as an employee, as a manager, in whatever capacity, unless his complicity in the offense is proved, and that offense is also established against the company, the person cannot be charged with the penalty as an abettor to the crime. So 209A, earlier excise, then replaced by 26, and 73(1)A, because for more than 10 years, there was no personal penalty criteria under service tax. It came to be introduced only at a later point of time. So, and another thing is, a so-cause notice to company is not a so-cause notice to director. This is the law. Because no person can be penalized without issue of the so-cause notice and putting him on the notice as to why the penal provision, particular penal provision should not be invoked against him. So two
So
counts.
practically all the show cause notice which we are receiving, I hope you are also aware, therein what they are doing is they are putting the name of the company. They are giving entire discussion on the company and then why company should not be levied with the service tax and etc. etc. Then there is again another paragraph saying that personal penalty on director.
Yeah, right.
So my
So
point
there-
is, here the final point which I wanted to discuss was exactly this, that this is a show cause on the company, and then personal penalty on the director in the same show cause will not work.
Most
And
of
it
the
is,
time you will find a pile in all these
Yes, sir.
cases. If it is a excise, then Rule 26, and
Yes.
if it is a service tax, Section 73(1)A, right?
Yes,
Right?
yes.
You will find
One
that
capital.
just before the penalty met paragraph, as we call it. Now, therefore, you are hereby required to show cause as to why. Before that,
Yes.
there will be one paragraph. That one paragraph might be simply reproducing the language also
Yes.
of this personal penalty. Maybe. If it is even that is not reproduced, then so much is better. Then so
In
much is
few of the
better.
cases, I think it is given,
Yeah.
but few of the cases they are
But you
missing
see,
even now.
Gokak Patel is one of the classic case of the demand raised without so cause notice, which we
Yes.
were earlier talking about,
Yes.
right? And here in this case also Supreme Court said they have followed Madhumilan syntax, and they have also said that Gokak Patel, that any post facto so cause notice will not even validate the demand,
Yes.
right? This is the case
So
Gokak Patel.
personal
Right?
penalty at least should be,
Right, okay.
because every director will become literally.
No.
I would
So
say-
in my point, the point is very simple. Be it director, manager, a simple employee, or any. The
Yes.
law is very clear.
Hmm.
One, there has to be a proper show cause notice which can be the part of the main notice. But an independent case should be made out against the individual. He should be put to the notice of the allegation why he is liable for personal penalty and under which provision. If it is not given, then you can challenge on 2 counts. The notice can be challenged on behalf of the director on 2 counts, or that individual on 2 counts. One, that first is he can adopt the reply of the company. Okay, since the entire demand is not sustainable in the company, therefore the penal provision against me has no applicability, no penalty is impossible on me. Because unless and until the demand is confirmed against the company, the question of penal action against the individual does not arise. That is first proposition. So one should always adopt the reply of the company in the first paragraph. The second will be assuming that the demand raised against the company is valid in the eyes of law, no personal penalty is impossible against me because no case has been made out against me. Right? No ingredients of the Rule 26 or 73 1A are satisfied against me. Third, on merit, what is my role? Merely being an employee and working under the management of the company. Merely being working under the management of the company and following the instruction of the company will not make me liable to tax, liable to penalty. So these are the different grounds on which it can be found. Next.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I think there was some screen
But
issue.
penalty
Yes.
should never be allowed to go. I am in fact in a 23-year-old case, excise matter, which I am filing the appeal now in this month. There is a penalty on a person who is long back retired. And the penalty is 5,000 rupees.
Oh God.
And I am filing on him also, on behalf of him. I told him, you may pay 5,000 rupees, but your appeal I am going to file.
At least the principle has to be principle of
Penalty, personal penalty should never be allowed for that matter. And one of the most favorite judgment, which without justification or with justification, we have been citing day in, day out is Hindustan Steel Limited, correct?
Yes.
1972, 78 ELT. Okay. Anybody has cared to really see that in Hindustan Steel Limited, the company was imposed with a penalty of 100 rupees.
Oh.
We never read, no, because we only go by the head note. Okay.
Yes, sir.
It was a 100 rupees case.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But at that time, 100 means here.
Now, whatever it may be, 78 is not too far in the law. It was not a belonging to Stone Age.
Yes, sir. Okay. Now, this case study is with respect to the redevelopment, as we discussed.
Achha, 2 more questions in the previous one. 2 more questions, Payal.
Yes, sir.
Whether sir delivery of notice to another person is valid delivery? No.
So this is done. I think we are.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. We are on case study.
We are on case study 3. So case study 3
No,
is
now
done.
4. Now come to
Yeah,
conclude.
4. I only think question 1 is not on merits. Question 2 is on merits, so we'll skip that. Question 1 is not on merit, so I will just pick it up. There is a pendency of this is a redevelopment case, and we all are aware that during in redevelopment there are quite complicated issues. And right now there is also a Supreme Court, a tribunal decision which is pending before Supreme Court in case of Vasanta Greens. Now the question is whether the assessee should respond to such show cause notices based on the redevelopment. Or should they continue right now and keep it on hold?
Okay.
So that is the whole point which we wanted to discuss, wherein there are cases which are pending before Supreme Court. What should be the approach of the assessee? Anybody would like to please discuss in 2 minutes? Otherwise, I'll just give my views.
This is yeah. Let the people say anything.
Yes, sir.
Friends, we will have to slightly now hurry up. No doubt, we don't want to finish.
Silent Bhai, see,
Yeah.
I don't think now we should involve the participants.
Okay.
You and a Payal, if you can take it through,
Okay.
it will be much value added. It will be much value addition for the participants rather than having the discussion.
Okay, Payal, your review fast.
Sure. Yes, sir. In my view, in these cases, the assessee can, of course, file their case on merits, not on the basis of Vasanta Greens, but even otherwise, whatever their facts and figures of the case, they should definitely put it. And then the matter should be kept on in call book until the final decision of Vasanta Green has come up. Yes, sir. Now over to you.
Okay. Vasanta Green, before relying upon Vasanta Green, no doubt, appeal being pending before the Supreme Court should not deter us from relying upon it. Number 1.
Yes,
2.
there is no stay
But
on the
before
judgment.
relying upon Vasanta Green, the whole judgment of Vasanta Green was based upon one major factor, and that is that the consideration received for the sellable area included the cost of construction of the free of cost units given to the original members, which could be proved by the appellant before the tribunal. Based on that, they said it will amount to double levy or double taxation. Therefore, when we rely upon the Vasanta Green, the onus will lie upon the noticee taxpayer to prove that sellable area consideration included the cost of the construction of the free of cost units being given to the original members or whomsoever it may be given. So before applying that ratio, now quite a few builders, developers have now started maintaining this type of records. It's a matter of fact, and then principle of law will come into play. Right? That
Facts
is
and
number
figures
one.
definitely, as I
Right.
said, assessee has to
Right.
reply to the show cause, and
And-
facts and figures have to be given.
Now, without going into the merits, because my views have been very clear right from service tax days and even under GST, I'm very clear in my view that free of cost units given under a redevelopment agreement, whether by the society under self-redevelopment model or between the joint development model, society and developer,
Not be
they
taxed.
are not liable to tax. They were never liable to tax as a service tax. They are not liable to GST also. I'm very clear.
Yes.
But we are not going into too much onto the merit of the case. Now we go to the next question.
Yes, the second question is on merit, so I'm keeping it aside. The third
That's it.
question, which, yes, sir.
No. Second question is not on merit.
Whether department can recover service tax on transfer of development rights merely, issuing a letter. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
so
by-
sorry. I
yes.
literally, I did not touch upon that point. So merely by issuing a letter, can they recover the demand? So then my answer would be, sir, section 87, recovery of tax. It is very clear that tax is supposed to be payable. And to make it payable, the assessee has to undergo the entire adjudication process. So the show cause notice has to be issued, there has to be an order, and then only the recovery can be made.
Be it service tax, be it excise, be it customs, or be it GST. Right?
Yes.
No recovery can be made without issue of the show cause notice. Your DRC 01 under GST is not a show cause notice. It is a summary of the show cause notice. Okay?
Yes,
because,
definitely.
there is a difference between summary of the show cause notice and show cause notice. Therefore, merely on my receipt of the DRC 01, I am not obliged in law to defend myself. There has to be a proper show cause notice under section 73. When I say proper show cause notice, because I am coming across the cases, and I am not surprised also, where 73 show cause notice or 74 show cause notice merely reproduces the language of the section, and summary of the show cause notice gives the basis on which the demand is being raised.
Oh.
Yes. So therefore, we should not be over eager or over enthusiastic to suddenly start replying to the DRC 01 if a proper show cause notice 73 has not come. The legal position is not much different, where a completely vague non-specific notice based on the ITR and ST3 is given, and a show cause notice under 73 or 74 under GST merely reproducing the language of the show cause provision comes. Legal position remains the same. And as far as whether a letter, a communication, first of all should keep out their mind that every communication coming from the department is not a notice.
Yes.
You know, it is very much possible
There is
for
a
the
difference
client to
between
tell
letter
us,
and notice.
yeah, client can definitely phone करके अरे पायल जी जरा जल्दी आ जाइए, नोटिस आया है, शैलेश भाई जल्दी आ जाइए, जरा नोटिस आया है, मैं आपको भेजता हूँ, right? For him, every letter from the department is a notice.
Including an email.
Right? As a professionals, we cannot fall into this type of the thinking. We must. People are calling summons also a notice. DRC 01 also a notice. A letter asking for certain recovery also a notice. Audit objection also a notice, and a letter demanding any money from the from the taxpayer on any count whatsoever as a notice. Everything is not a notice. As a professional, we should keep it in mind. For me, notice means proper show cause notice under 73 or 74 under GST, or 11A under excise, 73 under Finance Act 1994. Beyond that, I will.
Salim, sorry, only one question. You said recovery is possible after issue of show cause notice. As you issue of
No.
Order,
I am
order.
not saying that. I am not saying that. I am saying that no recovery is possible without show cause notice.
Yeah, but after issuing show cause
And
notice,
after show cause notice,
adjudication.
then it's an adjudication process.
Yeah.
Then the adjudication process has to follow the demand has to be crystallized.
Then it will crystallize. Then I file the appeal.
Agree,
Then
agree, agree.
till
Sir.
the time my Supreme Court, I exhaust all the remedy, and thereafter if I lose the case and if I do not run away, there is no recovery. Okay, and now coming to the, so therefore later there are umpteen number of judgments, but
That is
only
why we are
four,
paying pre-deposit, no, sir?
right? And now subsection 7 of 107 and subsection 9 of section 112
107.
very clearly says,
Yes.
once the
That until
pre-deposit of
then-
mandated amount is made, the recovery is
It will
deemed
be
to be
stayed.
stayed.
Yes.
Okay. Now coming to 4 judgments only, I will say. Gokak Patel, Madhumilan Syntax, metal forging is one of the classic case of Supreme Court. 1987, metal forging. 2002, 146 ELT. And fourth one is, there is a direct judgment even of audit objection. Okay, any demand raised merely by audit objection is not valid in the eyes of law. That is Sidwell Refrigeration, 145 ELT 682. Next.
Now, yes, so this I have just given 1 or 2 tribunal judgments.
Can Kamal
Yes,
Khan
now the
Society
next
also-
question is whether they can pay tax under protest, and can they also discharge service tax through the balance of ITC of CGST. So first question is whether they can pay service tax under protest. So my view would be yes, tax can be paid under protest, service tax, be it GST, though I understand under GST there is no specific provision, but still the principle, legal principle has to follow, and the RCC will be given the right to pay tax under protest. It has to be paid with a letter stating that it is paid under protest. That's the requirement which has to be fulfilled at least. And can they discharge service tax through the balance of ITC of CGST? It's a little tricky question in my view. If there is a balance which is flowing from earlier period, a transitional credit, if it is a part of transitional credit, then yes, we can understand that service tax can be paid through CGST. Otherwise, because then it becomes, Senvet credits has got merged in the ITC. Otherwise, there is no legal provision that service tax can be paid through the ITC of CGST. It's Shailesh, sir.
Now, 2-3 aspects on this.
Yes, sir.
One, debit through pre-deposit via Senvet credit or Modvet credit was an established principle. Initially, in the initial years, we used to come across this objection in the tribunal when Modvet was introduced, that you cannot debit it, you have to pay it in cash. Right? And there are judgment, Haryana State Electricity Board, there is a Bidla Yamaha judgment, there is a Jalani Tools, and there are a host of judgments which have all said that the pre-deposit can be made through the Modvet or Senvet credit account. Right? I personally feel the law is not different even under GST. So we are now getting into 2 aspects. You made a distinction that whether if the credit is merged into a transitional credit, then I can do it, right? I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't agree to that. The point is this, that even if the ITC which I am availing in a continuing business activity, I can use it for the payment of CGST, for the payment of services pre-deposit. And at least Bangalore Tribunal in Dell International Services has taken this view. Coming to the latest bombshell from the Orissa High Court in Jyoti Construction.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, we always believe, and we are sometimes party to that also, bad laws are sometimes made by the bad arguments. If this entire judgment is read, none of the previous judgments in the legacy cases have been cited in this. None of the superior. And the law does not anywhere say you have to make it in cash. I am sure this judgment will not remain in force for long term, right? Now, as far as the service tax, Dell International can come under the conflict. That can come under dispute. So therefore, I'll answer this protest, Payal. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So therefore, one can pay the service tax or even under GST, because Jyoti Construction even debars you from debiting the GST also pre-deposit.
Yes.
One can do that, and if there is an objection, legal objection comes, then based upon the issue involved and based upon the quantum involved, one can take a call what is to be done, whether I would pay case and go ahead with the appeal or whether I would challenge it before the High Court.
Good part is this is Orissa High Court, at least not a jurisdictional High Court.
Jurisdictional High Court, yes. And the other thing is, coming to the protest part, yes, the word protest is nowhere used anywhere. And what most importantly, it was actually removed from the domain of 11B, which was made applicable to
Yes.
service tax by section 83.
83, yes.
83. At least we in olden days we had a rule 233 of central excise rules, which actually laid down elaborate procedure for how to pay under protest. Then we came across a long way to this 233B. Yes, Payal. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So therefore we had that elaborate.
Sir, I was
procedure.
not there in 1944.
Yeah, barabar.
Yes,
So
sir.
that law was there. Then they have actually taken away those procedure altogether. But 11B continued to mention that the limitation period will not apply when the under protest is paid.
Yes.
Now even that is also not there under section 54.
Yes.
So the two
And that is
questions,
where the confusion started, but I think
those
still.
two questions will arise.
Yes, sir.
One, whether I can still pay it under protest as my right. My answer is yes. Okay, nobody can stop me from paying the under protest. I will give the communication. I first pay it on the portal, and in the covering letter, I give it to the range officers, jurisdictional authorities, giving the reasons, not too much in detail, and then say that the payment has been made without prejudice to my right, that this levy is not sustainable in law, or whatever recovery is not sustainable law. Number one. Then comes to the limitation period. Can I actually go under protest and then say, okay, now limitation period will not apply? Because section 54 nowhere actually gives me that leeway, unlike section 11B. I would only be skeptical and I would only be clear without getting into the legal tangle on this point. Once I have paid it under protest, it means I have not accepted my liability. I would not allow the 2 years to expire. Before 2 years, I will in any case go ahead with the refund plan. Why should I get into that? Before 2
But
years,
sir,
I
in
will
case the department does not complete the case within those 2 years.
No, not 2 years. If they do not issue show cause notice within 2 years.
Yes, sorry, they do not issue show cause in
Right,
3
show cause
years.
notice. And the moment I file the refund claim, they will issue the show cause notice. And that's exactly what I want.
On which we can then further challenge. Yes, sir.
Next.
So next question is on the delivery of the show cause notice. So here the department has issued the show cause notice on 30 December. That is one day before when the period for one particular period was getting over. And then it is delivered via speed post. But then it is delivered to not K Mehta. Instead, it is delivered to K Neta. And also there was no den on the show cause notice. These are two main points.
Yeah, right.
One, the delivery of the show cause notice
To a wrong person.
To a wrong person, and no den on the show cause notice. In this case, as I already earlier also we discussed about rules marketing. This is a precise case which takes care of that it has to be as I said in the section itself, they are talking about acknowledgement due. So the acknowledgement has to be given, and it cannot be given just to any Tom, Dick and Harry sitting in that premise. It has to be given to the right person. The service of the show cause notice has to be the right person. And this is our own case, Shagir Decorators, wherein in tribunal, Mumbai tribunal also, we tried talking about it. There was too much hue and cry by department. But then ultimately, based on rules marketing, we could get justice that yes, the service of the notice has to be done to the person who is the right person. It cannot be given to any other person sitting in their premise.
So
suppose you have given it on rent or you have shifted. Yes, sir.
Two things only. Here, one, again, I will again reiterate, such type of cases normally revolve around the facts of each case.
Yes.
One. And secondly, but otherwise, if the notice has been actually delivered to a person and not for whom it is meant, then it is not a valid service. Right? So there it is not a valid service. A show cause notice to the company will not amount to a service of the show cause notice to the director of the company.
Yes. And then is not quoted, even that also show cause notice is invalid in law. There is definitely a circular on this.
That is right. We can, based on this, we can say, but there is a, to be very frank, there is a judgment of the High Court which says it will only render it, it is a technical error, and therefore it cannot mean that the entire show cause notice will render invalid.
Okay. But sir, departmental circular.
Department circular fine. Department circular is fine, but then there is a difference between pre-consultation notice, yes, not following by the department circular, and non-mention of the dean in the show cause notice. Yes, there is a difference between the two.
Definitely.
Right. Next.
The next case law is on mainly on the renting, so we'll not talk about the exemption. We'll directly go to the legal point. Whether the assessee in these cases wherein there is a show cause notice being issued, now the question will be in case the demand is getting confirmed, whether at current stage when the service tax has gone and GST has come, whether the assessee would be able to recover the taxes from the service recipient. That is the first question. In my view, the primary liability remains with the service provider, and one has to really see the contract in detail rather than GST and service tax law. It is equally important that we look at the contract, how it is made between service provider and recipient in that case.
So here I will just say this much.
Yes, sir.
Even though indirect tax is a consumption tax, by nature, all indirect taxes are consumption tax and is required to be borne by the consumer. There is no machinery in law which says that it must be borne by the consumer.
Right.
Statutory provision nowhere says so because it cannot say so.
Only
Correct?
thing is, it is assumed in many of the
Assumed.
cases.
It should
Yes.
be.
It
should
is
be
deemed
borne by
that,
the
yes.
consumer, right? But primarily the liability remains on the taxpayer. That is businessman who supplies the goods in the context of GST. One who supplies the goods or services, the liability is only on him, and he is basically acting as a pass-through. He is expected to act as a pass-through, and he collects. If he is unable to collect or he has not collected the tax, his liability is not absolved. Number one, that will remain the law. Now we come to that whether he can collect from the Chunawala or not. Again, that as you have said, it will depend upon their commercial contract.
Yes.
And if the commercial contract helps Darpan, then only
They should go for a civil case.
The civil commercial code. I mean, there is no
Civil
remedy is available in law. But if Chunawala decides, suppose, and to use our crude Gujarati language, कि उनको चुना लगाने को अगर उन्होंने नक्की कर लिया, तो दर्पण can only see his mukh in the darpan. He cannot do anything else.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Right. Next.
Okay, sir. And last one is whether department can issue service tax notices even after introduction of GST law. So there are judgments in the past laws. Rayala Corporation, we all are aware, General Finance Company, wherein they said that there is a difference between, I would say, the substitution of the law, the entire remission or omission of the law, and the substitution of the law. So, and of course, the recent High Court, Bombay High Court decision has said that there is still a saving clause available, and therefore they should be levying. Show cause notice, service tax show cause notices are valid in law. So, Bombay High Court with jurisdictional High Court decision, I think it will be applicable. Yes,
I will only say this much on this very, very complex and intricate issue.
Yes, extremely.
Only there are not less than 9 to 10 judgments: entertainment tax, luxury tax, VAT, service tax, ongoing audit, investigation,
yes,
order passed after 1/7/2017, which are staring at us and which are all in favor of the revenue on this. All. I have a series of judgment on this, but all these judgments have gone into certain aspects or probably not gone into certain aspects which were never canvassed before the court. So we have not lost the hopes. Our view is very clear that any show cause notice issued under the erstwhile legislations, service tax, excise, or for that matter, entertainment tax, or even luxury tax, etc., or VAT, after 1/7/2017 is without authority of law and without jurisdiction. And section
so
170.
we have this Bombay High Court decision. So
In spite of that.
In spite of that.
In spite of that. So therefore, saving clause of section 174 does not actually save such type of cases. Even to the extent of there's a Guwahati High Court judgment which is against me. There's a Kerala High Court judgment in Sheen Court which is against me.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So in all these cases,
Majority of the
order,
decisions against.
even order is also passed after 1/7/2017 on an existing demand. That is also without jurisdiction and without authority law in our submission. So this is an extremely intricate issue. So
Yes.
we will stop at that.
Yeah, it will require
But,
entire.
but I would
session. So-
only say that we should never lose the hopes in this type of cases. No doubt, this is a issue going to the very fundamental. this is a point of law. If I have not taken this ground at the first show cause notice level, or even at the time of the first appeal or tribunal, at whatever level, this ground becomes available to me because of some judgment which has ruled in my favor on this issue. This is a pure point of law, and issue of jurisdiction goes to the very roots of the case. So I can always take this as a ground. But
Okay.
I'm in taking this because the authority who are the creatures of the statute, please understand this, who are the creatures of the statute, they cannot declare a particular provision of law as a null and void or the unconstitutional. They cannot cause that, right? They cannot declare it ultra virus or whatever.
Yes.
But we can say that because all show cause notices are now coming, that this notice is issued under section 73A read with section 174. All notices are coming like that only. Therefore, we can raise this ground. We may raise this ground at the first appeal or second appeal level also. So we can do that.
Yes, sir.
But it's a yes.
Appeal
It
versus
is a
omission
tough-
is very big area to deal with. I
Yeah,
would
it's a
say.
tough battle. It's a very tough battle.
Yes.
this
And it
too
will have to be
intricate-
settled down at Supreme Court level.
It's a too intricate a problem because from where to attack this and how to attack this, it's a very, very different manner. It's a very different issue altogether. So,
But Shailesh Bhai has told us that at the show cause level, you take this ground. That is
Yes,
last,
Sata.
and last
So
ground.
we have taken in every show cause
You know,
notice, we have taken
no,
this
no.
ground.
Whether
So-
you have to, one has to write only this much in a, okay, without prejudice to the above, the entire
Yes,
show cause notice is
without
without
prejudice.
authority of law and without jurisdiction, in as much as the section 174 of the CGST Act does not really permit or save this type of cases. Only this. Whether we have understood this or not, but we can always write this. It is without jurisdiction.
Definitely, sir.